Paging the crime doctor shades in a few layers to the past of Thomas Wayne. This isn't the most action-packed episode of the series, but it does a good job of focusing on a few background characters with a connection to Bruce's family. It stands out to me because of one great little moment that is among the best in the show. Former Dr. Matthew Thorne has been working for his brother, crime boss Rupert Thorne, to discreetly treat his henchmen for years. Long ago, his medical license was revoked when he didn't report one of Rupert's injuries to the police. Still bitter at his brother, he's put in a difficult situation when Rupert is revealed to have a tumor growing near his heart. Refusing to go to the hospital, the crime lord begs his brother to operate. Needing assistance, Matthew's old classmate, Dr. Leslie Tompkins, is abducted and forced to help with the surgery. When Bruce discovers his family friend's office ransacked, he finds a clue that points him in the direction of the Thornes being involved. This episode has a lot of credited writers behind it. Well, at least more than usual. Mike W. Barr and Laren Bright came up with the story, while Randy Rogel and the late Martin Pasco wrote the teleplay. The illegal surgery and unwilling participant angle used here is something we'd see again in the movie Batman and Mr. Freeze: Sub-Zero. That film was co-written by Randy Rogel, so we may have seen an idea that worked here repeated in that script with a slightly different wrinkle. Frank Parr handled directing duties for this understated story that follows a more obscure villain from the comics, although the crime doctor is recontextualized here as a sympathetic family member caught up in his brother's life of transgressions. It reminds me a bit of It's Never Too Late, with a crime boss having a more upstanding brother, but in this case it's taken a little further since Matt is directly involved in Rupert's organization. I do really enjoy the exploration of Matthew's connection to Leslie Tompkins and Thomas Wayne. Just the little hints dropped throughout the episode are a nice touch.
Any idea who Matt is?
Yes, I believe your father mentioned him. One of their colleagues in medical school. Very close friends they all were. Called themselves the Three Musketeers, in fact.
The shadow of Bruce's father looms large here. Even though we don't get a flashback or anything like that, the mentions of him by the people who were his friends had me wanting to know more. And watching Bruce sort of break down to Matt at the end of the episode is a fantastic moment.
Something you know. Something only you can give me. Tell me about my father.
It's one of the only times we see something like this where Bruce isn't brooding or talking with Alfred about his parents. He went out of his way as Bruce Wayne to talk with Matt about his dad. The vulnerability he shows to a stranger makes that line even more impactful, and it's a base emotion that we can all relate to. It doesn't have to be a parent, but any family member who means something to us. Maybe we only knew them when they were older, or we didn't get a chance to know them at all. But encountering someone who knew them from a specific time period and carries all those experiences with them can be like finding a little piece of hidden treasure. What was this person like before I was around? It's a great question, and it's the main reason why I like this episode so much. Whenever Leslie Tompkins shows up, you can usually count on the episode being high quality. We get to see her work a little bit at the free clinic that bears Thomas Wayne's name, and just watching her interact with Bruce is a treat. Alfred fills the role of a father figure at times, and this episode talks a lot about Bruce's dad, but as I've mentioned in her other appearances, Leslie providing a motherly figure for Wayne to talk to always felt like a fresh dynamic.
Your father, God rest him. He called you stubborn from the day you were born. Always used to say you had a very hard head. He didn't know the half of it.
There are a few odd aspects to this story, like the gun-shaped medical laser that Rupert Thorne's men steal. It's used to seriously injure Batman at one point, and the limp ear is kind of a funny visual. Also, a random nurse henchman of Thorne's nearly kills Batman by getting the jump on him. I know they were playing up his injury, but it always bothers me when a low-level thug nearly takes out Batman without a good reason. It's okay though, because it sounded like he snapped this guy's neck. Shirley Walker was so good at her job that her name is synonymous with quality. I could just say Shirley Walker did the music, and you know by now how much I loved it. They play a pleasant horn version of the Batman theme when talking about Thomas, and it's perfect for the purposes utilized. In fact, I think they used something like this when we see Bruce's parents in Perchance to Dream. So a bit of a recurring theme for Thomas Wayne there. At one point, this episode was in my top 10, but on this last rewatch, it's not quite as good as I remember it from a few years back. Still a strong recommendation for me, especially for all the Thomas Wayne talk, but it's not as high up on my list as it once was. Paging the Crime Doctor has a great premise and works best as a smaller emotional story. The character content drives it forward. It's just too bad we never got to see Matt Thorne show up again. Like Leslie, he could have been a nice presence to bring out once in a while. Check it out for a little background on Bruce's dad and the company he kept.